Paula, started doing hepatitis C work through there, and started talking to parents about underage drinking. The response from the parents was, who cares about underage drinking? You know, this kid, he took one pill and drank a beer and he's dead. That was my first exposure to an opioid overdose death, a fatality. He was a young man, 19. Ooh, I get chill bumps thinking about him. Good kid, 2 parents, played sports, went to church, did all the right things. Who'd have thought that those are the kids we were paying attention to, and we needed to be paying attention to. So I always start with him in mind. He was my first loss in my professional life. I stopped counting at 19 because by anything in this world, we were not going to get to 20. And now, we had 3 in the past 2 weeks in Franklin. And I'm late today because I had a young man in my front door crying because he lost his best friend this weekend. Phew, I almost took him with me. So, Addiction 101 is Lisa's topic. I have little arms. Addiction is a whole bunch of things. What we're going to talk about today is some basics about addiction, so you understand when a clinician says, hey, your kid's got a substance use disorder. You'll know how they came to that surmise because I'm going to teach you this much about diagnosing so you understand addiction isn't just this thing we picked up today and said, hey, he's got an addiction. There's an actual clinical diagnosis process that happens, and I want you to be aware of the criteria. Disclosures, we're broke. Oh shit, I'm sorry. Oh, you recorded me. Is that live?
It is.
Oh boy. I'm from Boston. I'm a good old biker broad. I'll tell you that up front. I grew up in a house full of Irish men who cussed like truck drivers, and I would do my best to be respectful, but they come out. We received tons and tons of medical donations from Direct Relief, almost $500,000 last year, and we only have a $5,000 grant. So most of what we do is free. I haven't had a paycheck in a long time, so we're working on that. I'd like to start with this cute little fella. I want to know what you want to know, because if I can cover it even as a quick sidebar, we will. So what are your questions? Let's take just 2 minutes to do this fast. Just popcorn. What do you want to know?
How many people in Jackson, in this general Western North Carolina, are addicted to opioids?
Well, that's really not qualifiable, because how many people do you know have access to treatment system that need to? Because that's where we're counting numbers. So, don't have a number for you. There's a national number, right? We know X amount of people on a national level and a state level and a local level that access care, but that doesn't tell us how many people are suffering. We have a guess. I don't use it. Who knows? 25% of all law enforcement departments in the nation have a substance use disorder. So we know that number. 25% of all law enforcement departments. Imagine the general public. I don't know. What else we got?
Can you make that statement again? I missed 25%.
The national number for law enforcement departments have 25% of those offices have a substance use disorder, diagnosable. That doesn't mean illegal. Could be alcohol, could be something prescribed, but that's the national number. And my father was a 30-year member of law enforcement, and I was in law enforcement before I came to the dark side. What else you got? All right. I'm sure you'll have more. Just if I tell you park it, we're going to get to it, right? So I have no problem taking questions. So objectives, this is a 4-hour training at least. We're going to talk about substance use diagnosis. I don't want you to diagnose, but before you say somebody has an addiction issue, I want you to understand what that means. It isn't just a term we picked up on PBS this morning. It's a clinical diagnosis. I want to talk a little bit about signs and symptoms of use. I had a mom tell me one time, Jesus, Stephanie, why didn't you tell me about the damn spoons? If I had known about the spoons, I would have looked for other things. This is a mama who buried her kid from a heroin overdose. So dude, I can only do so much that I can do. I don't know. This is, a long time ago too. Not too many people in the general public were talking about this issue. Talk about treatment. I hear a lot about medication versus abstinence and what that looks like. I can tell you when I moved here 14, almost 15 years ago now, there wasn't a clinician in Western North Carolina interested in sending somebody to MAT, medication-assisted treatment. They didn't send them to Suboxone, they shouldn't send them to methadone. So, we've changed that system. Talk a little bit about harm reduction, some of the approaches we work with. Stigma, you'll have stigma labeling pieces throughout what I present. I hope you'll listen to the language that I use and start to model that in the community. Notice I didn't say addict. I don't use that word. Alcoholic, I don't use that word. It doesn't mean anything. It means you think I have a problem. Good for you. How do we reduce the stigma and the labeling? Starts with us. And then we'll talk about opioid overdose specifically, and I brought 50 Narcan kits to donate to Haywood County to families that have somebody who loves someone who uses opiates. There's some challenges there. We'll get to them. Full Circle, briefly, I founded Full Circle in 2013. It is now only operating as a DWI program because I don't have time to do much anything else. And I got to pay the bills, so it helps us keep the building open. We were awarded the very first opioid overdose reversal money from the United States government in 2015. We were one of 18 in the entire nation. So that I give you an idea of my expertise and my experience, long before I came to North Carolina. And we started the syringe exchange program in Franklin in 2016. After I started working with WINCAP in, I guess it was 2019, we started the Smoky Mountain Harm Reduction, which is a 501c3, not-for-profit. Our mission is really clear. We help anybody with anything that they present with. They don't have to use drugs. I don't even ask them, hey, are you a drug user? Not happening. Some people need a blanket, a bottle of water, a hug, maybe a diabetic testing kit, maybe syringes so that they can prevent the spread of hepatitis C. Whatever somebody comes to my door with, they leave with a resource. If I don't have it, we find it. So harm reduction really for us is a health hub. Whatever you present with that you need help with, we will find a way to make it happen. If I've got to put out a call on Facebook for volunteers, for donations, whatever, we'll make it happen. Philosophy is really simple. We try to help people who use drugs stay alive and healthy. If you hear nothing else from me, that's my job. I help people stay alive and healthy. Now, these are some slides I found online. I didn't want to talk too much about data just because you guys aren't scientists. Who cares? How many people in this room know somebody who has an addiction issue? Wow, big surprise. I mean, what do we know? Our kids are dying. Our neighbors are missing out work. Their kids are in DSS custody. 44% of grandparents in the state of North Carolina are raising their grandkids. Like, we could go on all day. But this is a big problem. Not here, but the entire world. Anybody brought coffee? Oh, you brought a coffee. You didn't bring me one.
Do you want a coffee?
No, I don't want coffee. Because I don't need any stimulants today to survive. But y'all do. Hey. Don't let me interfere with your substance of choice. Anybody smoke before you came in? My mother just had a stroke. I just left Mission Hospital yesterday after being next to her in the bed for 8 days. So, she's now a non-smoker.
Yes.
Because she don't drive and she can't get there to get cigarettes. Hey, whatever I gotta do to keep her alive and healthy. So addiction is a big problem. It's not new. This isn't just we woke up this morning and people are starting to die. The past 2 decades, we've gone from prescription pill use, well, of course, in the 80s and the 90s was cocaine, and then into prescription pill use, into heroin use, into fentanyl, and now, oh my goodness, we're looking at a ginormous nationwide methamphetamine issue, right? So every 10 years, the substance changes, somehow. Some factors in our lives that increase opioid use. I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff. Mental health disorders. I have PTSD, chronic, complex PTSD. No matter how much I treat it, that shit keeps coming back. And it affects my ADD. So the worse my PTSD gets, the more chaotic my brain gets. And then I just left the office with a dead kid, right? I had 2 more last weekend. So how do we stay healthy in doing this work? It's definitely a 100-pound weight gain of trauma. Genetics. So my father's father was a person who had an alcohol use disorder at one point in time in his life. Family history, right? Definitely a big issue. We'll talk a minute about it again. Our environment. Did your mom work at the bar? Did you go to the bar every day after school because she couldn't afford childcare for you? You grew up around people using alcohol to cope. 5 o'clock, what a hard day. Let's go have a beer. Sounds good to me. Let's hang out for a little bit. I want a hug. I love hugging. I miss my hugs, right? It's the way we raise our kids. It's the environment. Do we celebrate buying a new home with a bottle of champagne? Or do we buy a 5-gallon bucket of paint? Most people are opening a champagne. So the environment has a big deal to do with the risk for substance use issues. Misuse of prescription drugs. Use of prescription drugs. How do you even get them? I have a hard time accessing care, and I'm a clinician. I just left the hospital. My mother has osteoarthritis in her hip, 2 x-rays and a CT scan, nothing broken, giving her 2.5 milligrams of opiates every night to sleep. She's discharged with nothing. She's 71, never had a substance use issue in her life. And you're not going to continue the medication that's helping her sleep at night because, God forbid, 2.5 milligrams of opiates. Woo! Talking big stuff, kids. I don't know about y'all, but stressful home life? We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are dying every day. Do you get the vaccine? Do you not get the vaccine? Did you get sick with the, oh, he died, did he have the vaccine? I mean, it's craziness. It's constant. It is from every direction. People are losing their businesses, their homes. The eviction moratorium is lifted, right? Where are all those families going to go? You guys had a flood. You have 500 family members that are displaced with no housing available. Stress. I don't know about y'all, but if that was me, I'd rather be drunk under the bridge than have to look at life through that lens of nothing. There's no hope for me. Where are you going to place me? The hotels, the motels are filled. Pain, guys. Stress, stress. And forget work life. They just work us to the bone. We know that this is not a moral issue. People in church on Sunday have addiction issues. Big surprise, right? It isn't just folks who live a moralistic life. Everybody, based on quantity and frequency, can have a substance use disorder. Quantity and frequency. How much I use and how often. We know it's a brain disease, right? Continue to take that substance and your brain starts to have changes. The limbic system, the part of the brain that controls fight, flight, or freeze. Your prehistoric part of the brain that tells you time to breathe, Stephanie, right? How many times do you think we have had a breath since we've been here in 20 minutes? I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but my brain did. That's the part that's affected by addiction. Don't have to think about it. I wake up in the morning, I'm dependent on opiates. If I start in the withdrawal process, my brain is already off and running, and I better get something or I'm going to be sick as a dog, and I know it. I know what that feels like. So, talking a little bit about addiction, initial use, experimentation. I go to a party Friday night, somebody passes a joint, I take a puff, it goes around, I don't think about it again. Yeah, it was all right. I go to a party again, and I say, hey Fred, you got a joint? That was really good last time. Now I moved to some experimentation. Initial use is an unexpected occurrence, right? Whatever that looks like. Experimentation is I'm starting to think about it. My friends have it, it's around me. Alcohol, whatever, it doesn't matter what the substance is. At this point in the use though, there's no cravings. Welcome, come on in.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to be so late.
Don't be ridiculous, come on.
Okay.
Come on, we got plenty of seats.
Bless your heart.
So experimentation is where we're using socially. I hear people, I do assessments all the time for DWI. I'm a social drinker. I say, yeah, you and every other person in that chair. Very few people admit to drinking home alone, right? I'm a social drinker. Is that a case? A six-pack? And then we move into regular use. We're starting to drink after work. Maybe Friday night, you and all the folks that you work with decide you're going to go to the bar and have a beer together, and whoo, that was a week, right? Let me brush that off. Social settings. So, of course, it can happen alone. It doesn't have to be in a group of folks. I have a girlfriend who likes to drink 2 bottles of wine every night. That's 9 servings of wine. 2 bottles and a book. That's her thing. Hey, she isn't hurting anybody but herself, right? That's how she looks at it. She's not out drinking and driving. People have a right to live their lives the way they want to. Dependence, good old dependence, right? That means if I stop using, there's a physical reaction in my body. Opiate withdrawal. Methamphetamine withdrawal. We don't talk a lot about methamphetamine withdrawal because it's mostly psychological, right? They stay up, they use for an extended period of time, and then they crash. They're out for 2 or 3 days. During that time, there are things that happen in their brain and in their body. But this is where the withdrawal symptoms are beginning. And addiction, of course, is when we continue to use despite some pretty horrific and catastrophic consequences. My kids are in DSS. That's pretty catastrophic, right? I've got a DWI. That's pretty catastrophic. It's going to cost you about 10 grand if you're on the low end. Pretty catastrophic. How do you come to my office smelling like alcohol after a DWI? That takes some courage. Hey, I'm just being honest. That takes some courage. I sit across from me at a desk stinking like booze for a DWI assessment. To me, that's screaming, help me, please help me. I didn't care, the consequences didn't matter, I had to use before I came. Or if they come in my office stinking like weed. I'm like, what's up, kid? I can't do an assessment with you while you're high. You know, when did you smoke? 2 hours, we can talk about it, but I doubt you're stinking now from 2 hours ago. Might be some good weed, but probably not, right? Take some courage. The whole idea with addiction is that the obsession of thought and the inability to control their actions, right? I'm using even, I know I'm having a drug test tomorrow with DSS, and I use tonight. People do it all the time. And their moms will say, what are you thinking? What is wrong with you? You know I was picking you up at 7 to take you for a drug test. That's addiction. So powerful. long time, but kind of tells you what happens to the brain when there's addictive chemicals happening in there, right? So we have this massive flooding. Imagine your brain's releasing opiates, serotonin, dopamine, endorphin, whatever the happy chemical feels like at the moment, and it's releasing it. And you don't have enough places to pick up all of that's floating around. That opiate that's floating around is you being high. The more that floats, the higher you get. Eventually, it affects that part of the brain that controls the breathing, and we know what happens. Definitely deprives the brain of warning chemicals. You don't know that something bad's happening because your system is already maxed out, fight, flight, or freeze. You know, the brain is not functioning the way a healthy brain without substance use is. Amazing euphoria. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I'd like to feel good today. Just left the kid crying his eyes out, his best friend's dead. I'd like to feel good too. If I didn't have healthy coping mechanisms and healthy coping skills and an incredibly humongous support team I may use to feel better, I would not hold that against anybody in this world. Anxiety and fear are present, even without a threat. What's going on? You come into the room and your hair stands up, right? You're like, who's here? Hello? The body's doing that automatically without something being in the room to make them think that. The brain is just completely imbalanced. And of course we know about the judgment and not being able to control their use or the impulses. Anybody know someone who has a benzodiazepine addiction or dependence? Woo boy, how often do they steal? Little things, nail polish, you'll be in line, pocket it, get in the, they don't even realize they're stealing. They don't need the nail polish. They got $20 in their pocket, they could buy it. It's the impulse control. Benzodiazepines do that to people. You hear people, oh God, I stole something again. What's wrong with me? It's the addiction, it's the dependence, that chemical in the brain. This is Dr. Gabor Mate in Canada, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning. This is pretty rough. Oh, maybe not. Let's see if it'll let me play it. Okay, so what we didn't do is put the internet on my laptop. Ooh, we'll skip it. I will send you a link to the videos that are in here. It's no problem. So, Dr. Gabor Mate is pretty amazing in the harm reduction world. He believes the opposite of addiction is connection, right? How do we get people with catastrophic and sometimes deadly substance use to want to live healthier, right? We look at housing first models. We look at putting people in housing and then providing the social determinants of health around them so that we're reducing their stress around childcare. We're reducing their stress about not having a GED or a high school diploma. We're connecting them with the services they need to be successful. When people start working on healthy parts of their life, getting unhealthy parts healthy, things start to fall in place. Oh, yeah, I don't feel like a cigarette. I got to go to a meeting. I'll see you after, right? Little things start to change naturally on their own. Many people have substance use issues that never go to treatment. That's how I stopped using cocaine. Back in 80, whatever it was, 88, 89, I don't know, it was like 18, 19. We didn't have treatment for cocaine dependence. There is no cocaine dependence. It's a head issue. It's a craving issue. You don't have withdrawals in the body, you know? You either went to treatment or you went to 12 steps. And that was the only way to get recovery back then. We didn't have these cute little support groups like we do now. So needed. We didn't have them. So I never considered myself in recovery because I never went to treatment and I surely never went to a 12-step meeting. What? My father was lieutenant commander of the police department. Imagine if I went to a 12-step meeting. Never happening. Never happening. But I had enough consequences. that I wanted to do something different. And so I made a decision to stop using it, and I did. Talking about treatment programs, there are a ton of models. If you were here in Haywood County, how would you get care? What would you do? Who knows? Pick up the phone and call who? Balsam Center is a great place to start, right? You got mobile crisis there run by Appalachian. Hey, I need help. They're gonna say either come in, we're gonna send somebody out to do an assessment. That's a crisis, right? Gonna help you with your crisis. What else?
ADAC.
ADAC? Sure, right? And so you're not gonna get ADAC because you're cute. You gotta access it to somewhere. So that's a big barrier, right? It's a big barrier for me as a clinician to get somebody an ADAC. And God help you if there's a bed. Let's hope, right? Only have so many beds. You can get the list of how many people in your county went to ADAC, and you'll see how small the number really is. Tiny. What else? How else would you access care here? Woo, I love it. Go ahead.
First step.
First step? Yeah. What's first step? First step farm. Anybody know what kind of modality that is?
Residential?
Yeah, but they're a therapeutic community. Come on in, welcome. They're a therapeutic community. Somebody said to me one time they broke my legs and built me up. What else? Meridian, absolutely. Outpatient, SAIOP, intensive outpatient, 9 hours a week of care for about 15 weeks. It's a lot. I don't know about you, but I gotta work. I need intensive outpatient, but there's not a snowball's chance in hell I'm gonna get it. Who's gonna pick up the kids on the bus? You go from 1 to 4. You know, more barriers. What else? And this isn't, please understand, this is not a bash on our systems. Our folks are doing the absolute best that they can do with absolutely nothing. So this is not a bash on any of these programs. It's our system. It sucks.
Yes.
What else?
We have a
Safe
couple.
harbor. Safe harbor.
I don't know what that is. Thank you. What's Safe Harbor?
It's basically an inpatient program that works them up from, if you stay like a year and a half, and there's certain benefits, you know, it's like 6 months intense inpatient.
Wow. Where is it?
Hickory.
The address.
No, like what county? Here?
No, it's
Okay.
not here.
Towards Hickory.
If I'm honest, we really don't have resources in Western North Carolina.
Hey,
And
we
if
know
I'm
that.
honest, there is nobody to call when you need help.
Well,
I
you
think
can
that
call.
one's in Jackson County, and I think it's a Christian,
Gotcha.
specifically Christian program.
Gotcha. Hey, I'm Catholic. I'm all for finding your path. It don't matter what path it is. I don't care what you do.
There's things in Buncombe County, and Buncombe County, it's mostly gonna be private insurance.
Yeah.
And really, if you're gonna go someplace without
For
money.
14 days.
You're looking at,
14
yep.
days, my mom hasn't even recovered from a stroke, and you want me to recover from booting $800 in pills a day. How is that working? What else? What else you got? Teen Challenge. Great. Another Christian-based, that is not treatment. Let's be really clear. That's behavior modification
Yep.
based on Christian morals and values. Again, everybody has a path, but that is not treatment.
We do
What
have
else?
2 medicated assisted treatment centers.
Yeah.
BHG and Pisgah Recovery.
Yeah, so we got 2 OTPs, opioid treatment programs. OTPs, that's a methadone program where you're going to a clinic every day. What a ridiculous thing. I've worked in methadone for years. It makes me crazy that we make people come in the morning only. You can only come between these hours because, you know, we want you to be productive.
What if they work in the morning?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Find another treatment modality. Nobody gives a shit. Well, it's the truth. And if you're 1 minute late, you're not getting your medication today. Come back tomorrow, and we know you're going to use. They don't offer you an overdose kit. Yeah. Our systems are sick, not the programs. That comes from the national level. OTP is regulated by the DEA, by the feds, by the state opioid treatment authority, by the county. See all this red tape? not conducive to helping people. But it is conducive for diversion. Because God forbid there's methadone on the street rather than an opiate pill that was just made in my garage that has fentanyl in it, right? Because God forbid we should be helping people access medication that keeps them alive rather than street drugs. But that's a whole nother training. Inpatient, outpatient, short-term, long-term, men's, women's, teens. Anybody know of any substance use treatment programs for kids in Western North Carolina? There's one. There is one. It's in Canton, Candler, one of those places north of here. It's called Aspire. And they do the 7 challenges. Holistic care. Every program should be holistic. I mean, we're treating people as a whole, not just their sobriety. Aftercare, dual diagnosis, mental health and substance use, drug detox, which is at the Balsam Center. We've got other programs in Nashville that provide detox. Court-ordered treatment, that's a whole nother training. Don't support it. Alternative Christian, alcohol treatment, 12-step, non-12-step, sex addiction, whatever. There's so many possibilities. Where's ours? So treatment, pretty simple. You have a problem, we're going to connect you with something. May or may not be a good fit for you, but it's what we have. We're going to hit every round peg with a square hammer, and it's going to work. Because Via will pay for it. This for me, I really should put up the 8 dimensions of wellness, but this for me really helps me understand that I'm really treating a human and all of the pieces they bring with them. Child care services. I don't know about you, but having a child in the waiting room at the methadone clinic with people that are waiting for assessment that are sick as a dog is probably not the best thing. Where's the care for that kid? And I'm not saying that parents shouldn't bring their kids to the clinic, but why can't we offer alternatives? Why can't there be a daycare piece at the clinic for the kids to be able to be with somebody while mom and dad are taking care of their health, right? There's so many wraparound pieces that are needed. Vocational services. Talk to people all the time. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, I'm 50. I'm like, yeah, me too. What do you want to be when you grow up? What have you done for 25 years? Well, let's talk about dealing drugs and some of those services that you provide that we can translate to another field like selling cars. Right? Or buying something in bulk and selling it at a higher cost, right? So there are pieces of skills that people learn that they have to understand are translatable to the non-drug world. Mental health, medical, educational services, HIV and AIDS. That needs to have hepatitis with it because and I did not bring any numbers today for our region because we'll be all day talking about them. Anybody know somebody who has hepatitis A right now? So we got an outbreak in Western North Carolina. Hep A comes from your butt. That's why the signs are in the bathroom for all the staff. Wash your hands. Hep B, not curable. Eventually will become chronic and it will kill you eventually. May take 20 or 30 years, may not. And Hep C we got a cure for. Our hepatitis C numbers are astronomical. I would say a guesstimate is 7 out of 10 people, 8 out of 10 people that I come in contact are all living with Hep C. And the medications are about $30,000 for 8 to 12 weeks of meds. All right, financial services. Our folks have not learned how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook. I mean, we're talking basic skills people need in high school. Never mind at the back end. These kids need some help. Housing, transportation, you have a DWI, you couldn't afford the $100 assessment fee that's set by North Carolina state law. You surely can't afford the 20 hours of mandated treatment that they're requiring. And so you just drive. Whatever. What are you going to do? Arrest me again. Every one of those is $100. Go to jail, then they can't work. So, transportation is huge. We don't have bus system, right? So, pieces around our folks, the social determinants of health. How do we know you're well? Well, I drove here. Had to borrow some gas money to get here, but oh well, life is hard for all of us right now. But I had somebody I could ask for it, right? That's a blessing. I had a buggy, so I didn't have to carry all my stuff and hurt my back. There are lots of pieces for folks that are moving into recovery, or maybe they don't want to be sober. Maybe they want to reduce their use. Maybe they want to stop using IV and only want to smoke. I support that. That's a route to recovery. Yesterday I was on a 5-hour call with the FDA. 5 hours, oh my God, with the FDA. Did not want to do it. But they were talking about stimulant use disorder and medications that they're putting into research so that we can have a medication to treat people that have a stimulant use disorder. It's brain logic for me. Opiate use, give them opiates. Let's stabilize them and put the pieces in place to help them get healthy. Why are we not doing that with stimulants? Doesn't make sense to me. And rock bottom for me is a coffin. I know that's rough, sorry. Again, it is what it is. If we're waiting for people to hit the floor and bleed, why? Who does that? Oh, you've got cancer? Dude, you're only stage 2. We're going to wait for your boobies to turn black, then we're going to give you care. What's wrong with you? Why don't we do that? This is a disorder. We're not making this up. We treat people with substance use disorders like they're crud on the bottom of your shoe. Somebody said to me one time, how do you know he's telling the truth? I said, well, because I believe him. He's telling me what it is. And his mouth is moving, he's a liar. A clinician. Ugh. Assessment, really simple to clinical interview. You're going to fill out a ton of paperwork. Come 30 minutes early, please. I'll help you if you need it, but we're going to talk about your family history, bio, psycho, social, your biology, your psychology, your social circle. What's going on in your life? Where are the healthy pieces? You didn't use for 2 days? Woo! What'd you do during those 2 days? Let's do more of that. I was at my grandmother's house. Can you get there tomorrow? Assessment is the beginning process for accessing treatment. It's not fun. And for people who have multiple attempts to access treatment, have to tell their story over and over and over again. Why? It's the same agency. Are we checking for lies? I don't have time to do that.
That's a barrier in itself.
Ginormous. I do not want to tell you about when I was raped. It's none of your damn business. The process takes between 1 and 3 hours. I've done assessments that have taken me 5 hours because nobody has ever asked them. Ugh. I'll stay there until tomorrow morning if I have to.
And can I say my experience, at least with my son and other people that I have known,
Yeah.
is that even though he lied many, many, many times about lots of things,
Yeah.
when he did these assessments, he was honest.
Yeah.
I mean, he spat it all out, and most of the people that I knew.
Why do you think your son lied?
Oh, I mean, he lied because he wanted to keep using, he wanted money, he wanted a car, he wanted to go out, he wanted, yeah. I mean, he told me he lied because he had to, because if he didn't lie, then he wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, he told me why he lied.
There are a lot of pieces, as you're hearing, when we're a family dealing with substance use issues. I'm a family harm reductionist. That's where my experience comes from, working with families. That's a whole nother 5-hour training. But assessment is the beginning. You can get an assessment very easily by calling Balsam Center. A mobile crisis will come out to your house, maybe today. I don't know, sometimes fast, sometimes not so fast. And I open my office for them to come and be in my office to have a safe, quiet place to do that. Just because it's what needs to be done.
And C-356 in Asheville is open 24/7.
Absolutely. So Balsam lost their crisis stabilization beds. Close the door. There were 2 of them. We had 2 23-hour chairs, and they're gone. We'll never have them back again. What a sin. You could have walked into Balsam 24 hours a day and asked for help. They'd put you in the chair, start you on medication, stabilize you. You no longer have that option. Go to Asheville. I don't have gas to get to Asheville. My clients don't have gas to get to Hotspot. So, as we talk about the DSM-5, Diagnostical Statistical Manual, that is my guide for figuring out how to diagnose a person around mental health issues, right? It's this fat, very, very big, and I'm going to break them down really simply for you. So they are broken down by categories. The first category is impaired control. What does that mean? Impaired control. Can't control yourself.
Yourself is impaired.
Yeah, you can't control yourself. Once I start, I don't know when I'll stop. That's an easy way to look at it. It's not always that clean. But for most people, if they don't know when they stop, when they start, that's an impaired control. I'm going to the bar, gonna have 2 beers, watch the first quarter of the Red Sox, and I'll be home, honey. 1 a.m. Must have been a good game. That's impaired control. Substance is often taken in larger amounts. I planned on 2, I had 12. Or for a longer period, I started drinking Tuesday, and it's now 3 months later, I've been drinking every day. It doesn't have to be that dramatic though, right? When I lose control over how much I use, quantity and frequency, there's a persistent desire or unsuccessful attempts to stop using or cut down. It's a big deal. I want to quit smoking. How many people have quit smoking? Hey, I quit 27 years ago. I burned my wedding dress. I said every cuss word known to man. I crushed them, threw them out the window. I never smoked another cigarette because I was pissed. That's what happened. No treatment, no nicotine patches, no nicotine vape inhaler. I'm a tobacco cessation specialist. I've been working with tobacco for longer than anything else. And people quit repeatedly 6, 7, 10, 15 times. And I say, yes, 16 times. Keep at it, man. You went 5 days without a cigarette. It's humongous. Tobacco, cocaine, so nicotine stimulants are on a clock. Doesn't matter how much you use. The withdrawal is on a clock. It starts. When you stop smoking that cigarette, the time starts. About 10 or 15 minutes, you already got a craving for another one. Pretty quick. A great deal of time is spent in activities around your use. So, my kid's got a baseball game. I'm going to take 2 puffs off this joint before I go deal with all them kids. Right? I'm going to have me just a quick little Mike's Hard Lemonade before I get over there. Recovery is a big piece of this. Recovering from use. Everybody wake up in the morning after drinking on New Year's with a headache? That's withdrawal. Minor withdrawal. But it's still on the continuum of withdrawal. Nauseous. Oh, shut that light. What are you, crazy, slamming the door? Don't you know I went out last night? It was New Year's Eve. Oh, that's withdrawal. Doesn't have to be so that I'm holding the cup trying to drink like this. That's at the end. Right? We look at the continuum. We ignore the early withdrawal symptoms for most people. And, of course, cravings. Woo! Cravings happen all the time. I pass by the grocery store aisle and I smell juicy fruit and my mouth starts to water. I don't even chew gum. What is it with juicy fruit? And you could smell it immediately standing there. I'm like, yep, there it is. But if that was cocaine, I might have a problem. Right? If I walk down the aisle and I see my drug dealer and I owe him money, I know he's going to come up to me. I'm triggered already. My hands are sweating, my mouth's watering. I know he's going to offer me 10 pills to sell to make up the money I owe him. And I'm going to use them. Next section is social impairment. How is the substance use affecting your life? Your family, your school, your work? I have people tell me I've been using for 25 years. I have excellent work ethics. I'm at work every morning on time. But how's their abstract thinking? Trying to fix the motor on that car, and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with it. I checked this, and this. Well, normally Fred's good at that. Well, last night he had a 12-pack at the bonfire with his friends. Just isn't there. How much productivity are we losing in these western counties for substance use? There's a number. It's in the millions. You can get it at the state on the opioid dashboard for each county. Continued use despite your mother screaming at you, what's wrong with you? You crashed my car. Don't you know that's the only way we all get to work and to the doctors and whatever? And then giving up activities. No, I don't feel like going to grandma's for dinner tomorrow. I'm going to stay home and just tired, right? It appears that he's tired. But are they really? Who knows? Risky use. So 90 minutes post smoking a joint, you can be charged with a DWI. 90 minutes is a long time. You may not even feel high anymore. But you are impaired, right? Mentally impaired, different from physically impaired. So it's a big issue. Maybe you drive a forklift at work. And last night you drank 12 beers. Anybody know how long it takes for a beer to metabolize in your body? A standard drink, not just
Hour.
1 hour per standard drink. If I had 12, that's 12 hours before I'm at not impaired. Stop drinking at midnight. I'm up at 6. I still got 6 more hours of alcohol in my system, and I'm at work. I feel fine. Ate my breakfast, had my coffee, took my kids to school, but I'm impaired. If you blew in a breathalyzer, you'd be charged with DWI. Substance use is continued despite knowledge of having another issue that's impacted by that. I have depression. I drink. 1 and 1 makes -5, right? Some medication for substance use and for mental health issues are impacted by alcohol. Anybody ever took penicillin VK? Doctor says don't drink. You might as well throw the medication out because it kills it. Right? So people are using knowing that they have a physical issue or a psychological issue that are impacted by the use. Is this helpful? You guys understand sort of what we do? Pharmacological criteria, 2 things. Tolerance, quantity and frequency. The more often I drink and the more quantity, then the bigger the problem, right? And sometimes I'm drinking to prevent a problem. I know y'all have heard of like the tale of the dog that bit you, right? You wake up in the morning, you don't feel too good, you're going to use just a little bit. If you're using meth and you wake up and you don't feel too good and you use a bump, you're right back where you were. Same thing with cocaine. So it doesn't have to be I have to drink a 12-pack so I don't go into withdrawal. It's just I need just a little bit to get me going, to prevent the withdrawal symptoms, with opiates especially. You ask somebody who's opiate dependent, they've got whatever they're using on their nightstand already for the morning. Because if they don't, they won't make it to the bathroom. Pooping, puking. And then, of course, withdrawal. So, am I using to prevent withdrawal? or is what I'm experiencing sort of characteristic for this substance? Any question about these? Pretty straightforward. So if you meet 2 or 3, you will have a substance use disorder mild case. 2 to 3 are the criteria, right? 3 to 4 is moderate, and then 5 and over is severe. 3 months of not using anything. 6 or more, thank you. I'm pretty fried right now, if you want to know the truth. Sleeping at Mission next to my mom, who's deaf, was not fun. Though medical staff did the best they could, she deserves a right to be communicated with. She's a human who's 71 and made it through all these years. She deserves to have a say in her care, so I'm pretty whooped. 3 months of no use, early remission, and then more than 12 months is sustained. So if somebody hasn't been using methamphetamine for 12 months, but they're still using tobacco, or maybe they're still using cannabis, they're still going to be in sustained recovery because we categorize it by the substance itself. So that leads me to, what is recovery, right? When are you in recovery? When you say you are. Oh, you're going to miss Matt Gainham's opioid withdrawal. Okay, so we got the 2 videos. This is Matt. Matt's a kid that he grew up in my hometown in Somerville, and he's a recovery rock star now. They're like Hollywood heroes. But he's telling about opioid withdrawal. It's just maybe 3 minutes, a short little video. Opioid withdrawal is horrendous. I had a kid lay on my floor full circle for 4 hours, shitting himself and puking everywhere. All I could do was give him a hug. It was awful. Wouldn't go get help because his family is well known, and he had already embarrassed them so much. God forbid he embarrassed them again. And he was using the same needle for 2 months, him and his girlfriend. They both were living with hepatitis C. They're both cured now. But I mean, stigma. If he had cancer, and I told his mom that the only cure is in the horse pasture where the shit is, that they gotta clip the grass that's there and feed it to him, she'd do it. Phew. What time we got? Oh, we got a half hour. Let me move because we're a quarter through. So there is no denying that addiction is a disease. There are actual brain changes. You can see them. If you go online, there are some fMRIs, which are functional MRIs. So they're doing something while they're taping, right? So they're taking a snapshot of the brain activity. It shows the electrified sections. When I see a naloxone, they take a picture of it at that moment, and then you can see what parts of my brain are affected when I think about naloxone. So an fMRI or a PET scan, they're amazing. You can see the actual brain activity. I have one slide in there for it. We're not going to talk too much about this, but I don't know. I hear crazy stuff every day, all day. We could make a myth list of 500, I guarantee you. Medical experts believe addiction is a matter of genetic predisposition. We know that people who have a family history are 4 times more likely to have a substance use disorder themselves, either alcohol or substances, it doesn't matter. So if mom has an alcohol use disorder, son could have an opiate use disorder, right? Like, we don't discriminate between substances. It doesn't mean they're predestined. You got a family history, you're going to be an addict. Whew, I hate that word. I do. I hate it. Who the hell are you to call somebody that? You're not a clinician. Makes me crazy. Second one is a matter of willpower. If I was only stronger. I hear this every day. I'm a coward. I get up and I use and I drive my kid to school. What's wrong with me? It's a moral failing. Ooh, that one hurts. Your morals are mine. Because I promise you, They're not the same. Who are we judging people by? So addiction is a choice. We know this, right? First use is a choice unless you have been administered substances like I was. I don't know how many were alive in 1970, but when I cried, my mouth hurt, my mother put paregoric on my gums. And my grandmother put Old Turkey. Wasn't that the whiskey? Yeah, that one. We're not even a year old yet. We know there's genetic predisposition. Family history is a high risk. So, what do we tell our kids? How do you talk to your kid about addiction? I'll tell you what I did. My poor kid was in substance use prevention education since she was 5 and still had a substance use disorder. She's been with me every day, every training I went to, every training I did, everything I did, she came. And still she used. Willpower. People who use drugs are some of the strongest people that I ever met in my life. Otherwise, they'd be dead. The shit they have to put up with just to survive is incredible. Listen to the barriers we've just talked about for treatment. Horrendous. And yet here they are, asking, please, help me stay alive, Stephanie. You got food? It was 40 degrees outside. I froze behind the dumpster. You got a blanket? You got a mat for me to lay on? I haven't had any water in 2 days. In Macon County, you aren't even getting a shower because the showers have been closed since March 2020, the public showers. I literally give them a bar of soap and tell them to go across the street and wash their keister in the creek. Come back if you need something else. Addiction is a moral failing. Well, you know. Good or bad. I like to use healthy, unhealthy. Who am I to judge you what's good or bad in your life? I'm the expert in my life. You're the expert in your life. What's good is a judgment. I'm judging you against something. It doesn't have anything to do with addiction. It doesn't have anything to do with me treating addiction. We have to see them as people. These are folks. These are our babies.
Can I add another myth?
Yes, bring it on.
Addiction is not the result of bad parenting.
Oh, 2 points. Do we have any prizes? I brought you a t-shirt. I did. Right?
Question?
Yeah.
What do you tell people though?
People who?
That say that, that think that back to your myths, okay? Either one of those three.
I hear it every day. Go to church.
I hear it every day.
Yep.
How do you combat that belief?
So people have to challenge their own beliefs. I could tell you 100 times that red cars are the best, but your car ain't red, and you love your car. How can I change your mind? That's what you're asking me. Mm-hmm. So the work I've done here has been individual, one-on-one. I've been in Haywood County working to change substance use since, close to, I'd say 2010. So before we even was discussion in these communities about opiates. I don't know. It's hard.
It is hard.
So I have coffee with people. Come on down the office. Coffee's always on. That's my motto, right? I'm gonna love you by feeding you. That's how Italians live in the world. Angie, you hungry? I feed anybody. I don't care. You come knocking at my door and I have lunch in the fridge for myself, you're gonna get it hot. It's just how it goes. And so that's how I work. I meet them exactly where they are, and I don't care. It is not my job to fix you. If you want to get fixed, if you want to get healthy, I can help you do that. I have skills. I can share my skills with you. You can share your skills with others. That's the model of the 12 steps, right? I'm going to give away what's been given to us. I'm going to give you 20 years of my life so that I can help you stay alive, so I can help you love your kid. So if your kid dies today, he dies knowing that he was loved, and you know that you loved him. Oh, there's some more chill bumps. It's reality for me, though. So I brought my overdose list today to give you Narcan, and I've got since September 29th, and I was in Vegas a week, and I was just in the hospital for 8 days. We've got 5 overdose reversals that have been reported back to us. 5 kids that wouldn't be here today. So when I tell you I speak harshly, and some of these topics are really hard. It's hard to hear me say that there's a dead kid, but it's our reality.
41 overdoses in Haywood County in the month of September.
Fatalities?
No.
Not all fatalities,
Okay.
but that's how,
7.
and I get that number from the sheriff's department, that's
Yep.
how, because the numbers that we were getting came from the health department. For our little billboard, well, it's the sheriff's
Yeah.
billboard,
And it's not, again, we're not bashing these agencies.
No,
The
we're not.
systems suck.
The only numbers that the health department can give us were if they went to the ER. Well, how
Right.
many do you think go to the ER?
Well, I'm gonna show you some numbers
Nothing.
from that, maybe, if we get to it. So this is a big deal. Treatment medications. Oh, have I fought with some clinicians in my time here. How dare you pass judgment against an evidence-based gold standard of treatment? How dare you? I'll turn you into the board. Don't mess around with my clients. I'll report you in a heartbeat. How dare you tell somebody that they shouldn't go to methadone? They're coming to you asking for methadone. There's a reason, because it's not fun. How dare you tell somebody that? That's what I experienced working here. It's better now. But it's taken a lot of work. We had no Suboxone programs. We had no OBOT, office-based opioid treatment. We had none. You would go to ADAC and you better be coming for abstinence because you weren't getting another thing. Now it's a little bit different, right? They're starting to make adjustments. They're inducing people. Listen, if you go to the emergency room for an overdose, I hope you leave with the prescription for Suboxone. Why not? At least a prescription for Narcan. Send them to me so I can give them Narcan. They're going to use. There's no when is what it is. It's not an if. We just saw the criteria. So quickly, we use medications to treat withdrawal. You're sick, I give you Suboxone, you feel like a new human. Like you did before you were dependent. Oh my God, it's a magic medicine. I've been around since before Data 2000. We didn't have Suboxone. We helped people stay in treatment. If you're taking your medication every day as prescribed and everything is going well, you're going to stay in care. It's when things, remember that circle, all that shit around us? When those things start to spin, so do we. How do we help people stabilize and get the supports they deserve? They burned every single bridge. And then preventing, I don't use relapse. I took this language directly from drugabuse.gov. Drug abuse, we don't use abuse. We don't use relapse. We've stigmatized the word relapse. Oh my God, you relapse? What happened?
What do you use?
Return to use.
Return to use.
Now, if I've returned to use, maybe I just took 2 puffs off a joint. Woke up the next morning and said, I'm good. It doesn't mean I stole my grandmother's wedding ring to buy, an ounce of dope. So we've stigmatized that language. Oh, there's so much we could talk about for months. Some medications, methadone, full agonist. It's like a lock and key, fits in. Methadone is the key, fits in the lock, and the opioid receptor fully engages it, so it prevents withdrawal and cravings. Buprenorphine, Subutex, Suboxone, a partial agonist, the key fits, but it doesn't turn it on. Has a super high affinity for the receptor. It's on there like glue. It ain't coming off. And that's why people that are using opiates that buy Suboxone from the street get sick, because it puts them in withdrawal because it has a higher affinity. Magnet, right? Boom. Ain't coming off. Extended release naloxone. Naltrexone is not my favorite thing to talk about. The jails love it because we give them a shot and let's hope they don't use.
Is that Vivitrol?
Mm-hmm. But the reality is that people on Vivitrol can still use. They just have to use a lot.
Or something
What does that
else.
cause? Hey, we're really high, and then dead. So let's push that. I like to use naltrexone for people maybe who have long-term recovery, coming off of Suboxone. You know, let's say they've been in treatment for 2 years and they're like, I'm nervous. I really want to stop taking the medication, but I don't want to return to use. I don't want to die, whatever. That's a good time to use Vivitrol, because if they use a little, they don't have that euphoric effect from it, they may not continue to use. It's like a safety net for me. That's how I use it anyway.
It doesn't have the same kind of physically addictive properties.
It doesn't have any addictive properties.
Right, and so that's why, I know people that want to use that because they want to be able to say of themselves, I am not taking something
So
that's physically addictive.
who filled their mind with that bullshit? So more judgment, right? But hey, listen, buddy, you know, I have high blood pressure, and atenolol is what works for me. So why aren't you taking that? You know, amlodipine, lisinopril made me cough. You probably don't want to take that because you might get a cough.
You know, we could do a whole.
We could do a whole day. Listen, I told you we're touching these topics.
Because I just want to say from my own life experience.
Yeah?
When my son first came to me and said, hey, my doctor wants to put me on Suboxone, I'm ashamed to tell y'all this. I said, absolutely not.
Of course.
You are not going to take a drug to get off a drug.
Right.
Absolutely not. And now I advocate for it. And what I tell people is this: my husband has multiple sclerosis. My husband takes an infusion twice a year. Would we deprive my husband of that medication?
Yeah.
So why are we depriving people with substance use disorder of medication that can help them?
Because everybody should be abstinent. What's wrong with you? What's your clean game? Oh, makes me crazy. I showered this morning. For heaven's sakes. You gonna judge when I wash my armpits now? But this is the language. Your urine drug test came back, it's dirty. So if I'm clean when I'm not using, I'm dirty when I'm using. I don't know about you, but if I feel dirty, I ain't coming. This is awful stuff we do to people. Their life is in absolute chaotic messes. They have no place to go, and they get the courage, I'll watch my mouth, they get the courage to come and say, please help me. And we ask them if they're clean. When's your clean date? This is dirty, your urine's dirty. Urine's sterile, buddy. Ain't nothing dirty in there. I don't know. We could spend 5 years. Nicotine, is another whole training. But nicotine replacement therapies, there's inhaled nicotine where you don't have to vape and heat it and get the chemicals. You can take a direct nicotine and we can taper you directly down from the pharmacy. It's clean, we know what's in there, it's easy to use. Ask for help. There's other medications too. Bupropion, I just stopped that when I went into mission. My antidepressant, Wellbutrin. Well, is that right, Wellbutrin? Yeah. I was in withdrawal for 3 days. I was so sick. My medication was in Franklin and I was in mission with no car. Angie, why didn't you bring me my meds? we want people that are on methadone to come every single day for the rest of their lives if they have a positive UDS for cannabis. If you have arthritis and you took a CBD gummy, right? Ain't nothing in there to get you high. But you show positive THC in your urine drug screen, you're done. They'll kick you out of treatment. Really? Help me understand this. This just happened to one of the local OTPs. So some of them were vaping CBD. I didn't ask if there was Delta 8 in there, which does affect the brain. You know, there's a little bit of a high. I didn't ask, but I know that they were vaping and they lost their take-homes. An OTP take-home is a big deal. So for every 90 days that you have a negative urine drug screen, you get 1 extra take-home. So you start at 3, 90 days you earn 4, 90 days you earn 5, 90 days you earn 6. A year of treatment. You earn a week. You come once a week for meds. If I had to take my blood pressure medication like that, I'd say, see you later, buddy, because I ain't coming back. You're out of your mind. But we expect people who are in absolute chaos in their life to do that. Ah, sweet Jesus, let me get off my soapbox. Alcohol, you know, the old medications. This is another one. Let's give them a medication so if they drink, they get sick. But if they continue drinking, they can get over being sick and get drunk. Right? So let's torture people. You're going to be so sick, you'll puke all over the place. But if you keep drinking, you'll be all right. And start taking your medication in the morning again. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's abuse. So here's the argument for MAT or abstinence. I have to put my glasses on because I'm old. But this came from Harvard University. This was a look at a whole bunch of studies, 11 of them, 1,969 people. And so you see the retention rates for people. 21% with MAT, 6% for the placebo, which is nothing. 60%! How many treatment programs can tell you they have a 60% rate for helping people? I would be doing cartwheels. This is incredible. Yet, no Suboxone. Doesn't make sense. We're not following the science. We're following the stigma. Here's the picture. This is from the journal Neuroscience in 2001, excuse me. So this is the dopamine transporters in the brain. This is way above my pay grade, I'm telling you now. But you can see, this is a healthy person. The one in the middle has 1 month abstinence from using methamphetamine. Look at the brain. At 14 months of abstinence. Look at all those black holes. You hear people say that methamphetamine makes your brain like Swiss cheese. It does. Look at all those deadened areas of the brain. Big, 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 big problems. Big problems for people. Scary stuff, guys. And how many people died in 2020 from an overdose? Do you know? 93,000 from 77,000 the year before. I just heard today that 43,000 of those deaths were people using amphetamines that were laced with fentanyl. That came from the FDA today. Yesterday, excuse me. Wow. Returning to use. I have asthma. I cough, I wheeze, I spit nasty stuff every morning. I don't care if I take my medication, I don't care if I take my inhaler. Every single morning I wake up, I know I have asthma. I don't smoke. I don't do anything that causes my asthma to be worse. I'm abstinent. But look at my relapse rate, my returning to use rate. Hypertension, high blood pressure. How many people use salt and they take their blood pressure medication? What's wrong with you people? You actually like something to have flavor? How dare you? You can have a stroke. I don't much that cost? I don't even know how much this week my mother cost Mission. Medicare cost us. She paid for it though. But substance use disorders are less than both of those. We ain't bashing people that come in that need a nebulizer treatment. What's wrong with you? You need albuterol? What the hell are you thinking running on the track? You know you can't do that. I don't know, guys. The chronic illnesses, the numbers are horrific. And this is a chronic illness. How many people in this room know somebody who had a heart attack in their life? How about your family member? So look at how common it is. If we were in front of Ingalls and I said to everybody that come out, do you think you might know somebody in your life that could die of a heart attack? They'll all say yes, right? It's easy, sure. The way we eat in the South, woo, you could. Give me some fries, something, right? How about you? Do you think you could have a heart attack? Absolutely. How about cancer? You think you could have cancer in your lifetime? I think we're born with it. I think we all have crazy cells. When do they come out? I don't know. That's my opinion. But if I asked you if you thought you'd have substance use issues in your life, what would you say? No way. Nope, because I control my use. I know when to say when. I drink responsibly. I drink socially. But we're going to keep bashing people. Harm reduction is what I do. I don't care what I'm working with. If I'm doing prevention with kids, if I'm doing treatment services, I am a harm reductionist. It's my approach to working with people. It's not my job to fix you. So I try to reduce the harms related to their risky behaviors. Anybody know their youth risk behavior numbers for any of the stuff in their place? How many parents are in here? Y'all, I'm going to shame you in just a second. How do you know what your kids are doing? Because they lie. How do you know? The only thing we know is the youth risk behavior surveys. Every county has access to have a YRBS or a resiliency survey, or there's a few different types. Macon County stopped doing theirs 10 years ago because the numbers were so horrific. 13% of the kids at Macon Middle School made a plan to kill themselves. Not had a shitty day, not was depressed, made a plan to kill themselves that day. Oh! And then they stopped the data. They stopped collecting the data.
Those were just the ones that admitted it.
Well, the survey's anonymous.
I still think there's kids that don't.
It's possible, but I think most kids feel empowered. They want to tell the truth, right? We've raised them to tell the truth. And if it can't get connected back to them, they're more apt to tell the truth. That's my 2 cents. But y'all should be looking at your data related to your kids. An approach designed to reduce the harmful consequences associated with something. I like to have sex, right? I don't know about y'all. I'm sure y'all do too. If I wasn't married, I'd still be having sex. You know, I'm going to have to use a condom in that case because our STI numbers in Western North Carolina are disgustingly through the roof. How many kids have chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, and most of them are under the age of 30? You want to see the number on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey in 2014 for Macon County, but I can't tell you how many of those kids have already had 4 or 5 sex partners. Already! They're not even out of school yet. Yet, we teach abstinence-based education around sex. And my daughter's friends, oh, I hope she don't see this, believe that oral sex is perfectly fine because you can't catch anything in the mouth. Let me shut off this kitchen faucet and what? Did you say? What? They were in 9th grade. I wanted to kill them. Did you just say that? I'm still a virgin. That was the discussion between them. I was horrified. Not my job to rescue people. We just support them where they are. I don't care where they are. Okay, this is a very important video. This is Dan Big Damn big is the reason that we have community-based naloxone in the United States. That's BIGG. This is a SAMHSA video that he made. And we lost Dan 2 years ago to an opioid overdose. He was a substance abuse counselor for 40 years. Hey, it is what it is. Even in that role as a national and international leader on this issue, he still was ashamed and used and shut the door. And when you shut the door and use, you shut the door to you accessing care. I don't know that you're laying on the floor because the door's shut. All right, so that's the 3 videos so far. Okay, so syndemic, we got 5 minutes. Syndemic is a really incredible word. It's a new word, syndemic. We know that we have an opioid epidemic, but we also have an HIV and hepatitis C problem. So the 3 of them make a 3-legged stool. I can take one out and the chair's gonna fall, right? I can treat HIV. We can cure HIV. I believe it. It'll be in my lifetime. That's a whole other training. But if I treat HIV, it does nothing to prevent overdoses. And if we cure the opioid epidemic, it does nothing to cure hepatitis C. So all 3 of these pieces fit together incredibly to cause people to stay sick. Actual definition, health-related problems clustered by person, place, or time. So the SARS syndemic was substance, I did not change that word because that's their language, substance use, violence, and AIDS. All 3 of them together. So for us, it's HIV, hepatitis C, and I don't know. Are we now adding over-amping with methamphetamine to the epidemic? I think we need to, given the rate of fentanyl that is in the methamphetamine. When you use methamphetamine, you expect to get picked up. I'm gonna clean my house. Just a little bump, I'm gonna clean my house. I gotta go over here, I'm so tired, I'm just gonna use a little bit. And they use and drop in 30 seconds from the fentanyl. Literally, drop dead. That is not what methamphetamine does to people. Some data from the state of cool down today. This is from the chief medical examiner for September. 321 suspected overdose deaths in September compared to 229. So our numbers are increasing. These slides are all available. There's a lot available. If you message me, I'll send them to you. But you can go on the North Carolina opioid dashboard. You can pull up Haywood County. You can pull Region 1, which is everything outside of Asheville, right? So there's a lot of way to look at the data. Scary. 25% increase. This is 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. This is emergency department. Who said the emergency department? The numbers are going up. This is the substance specific, unspecified narco, opiate or narcotic related, right? These emergency room visits. Heroin's purple. So heroin's starting to come down again. Commonly prescribed opiates. We are choking the life out of access to opiates. People are in pain because we're doing such a good job at keeping it from people. They're killing themselves. They're dying by suicide because they're in so much pain and they can't access services. Benzos, nothing new. Purple. Cannabis, hey, 0! Hasn't killed anybody. How did that happen? EMS encounters. So these are numbers directly from the health departments through their EMS. We had 629 suspected opioid overdose encounters and 1,200 last year. Anybody want to do a cartwheel? That sucks. Why? Why did half of the people call for help. Makes me sick. Half!
Because they're scared.
They're scared. We've had 3 death by distribution convictions in Western North Carolina. People who are using drugs together. This isn't a drug kingpin who brought, a dump truck full of drugs. This is 2 people, and maybe they are small-time dealers. I mean, if I buy an 8-ball and split it with you and you die, I'm going to jail for 20 years. Forget that we had a great weekend. How do we do this? Half are calling for help. In Macon County, if you call for help and there's drugs suspected, guess what happens? What do you think happens? Well, no, they come because you call 911. But EMS waits until the police clear the scene. Guess who's dead? 3 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes. Your organs are shutting down and dying.
Wait, are you saying in Macon County they don't do Narcan until the police arrive and clear the scene?
Can you imagine?
Is that what you just said?
That is what I said.
Well, holy shit.
And Haywood County was the first department in Western North Carolina to get trained to carry Narcan. It was the first department, I think, in the state.
It was the first in the state.
So, I was around that.
Stephanie, there was a mom that we met through the Share Project that
Excuse me.
had to call 911. Her son overdosed.
Yep.
He had an outstanding warrant, so as soon as she brought him back with Narcan, they arrested him.
Of course they did.
Another reason people don't call.
Yeah, of course. Of course they
He
did.
had an outstanding warrant for something like possession.
So, excuse me, it's my asthma, because I'm upset. So, there are a lot of systems that are here to punish people who use drugs. I don't know about you, but punishment doesn't work. My kid is standing in that corner and spit soap at you for all her cuss words. Right?
Attention members, the pool area will be closing in 30 minutes. Once again,
You
the
don't
pool
hear
area
that?
will
It
be
wasn't
closing in 30 minutes, and the
my
fitness center
hearing,
will be
right?
closing in 1 hour.
They will remind us every 10 minutes.
But seriously, this is a big deal, right? Excuse me. We're gonna continue to punish you and send you to jail so you could learn more unhealthy behaviors. Can I drink that?
Yeah, and there's some on your table up there.
Asthma stinks, guys. So, as you can see, by location, this is a big deal. 58% in September were inside their homes when they called for help. 12.4 are in a service area, transportation facility, I don't know, bus station maybe? Outside, on the road, or a recreational area, park, 13%. Other, we don't know, almost 6. Commercial public building, just under 6. Institutional residents, 1.6%. People in sober homes or in treatment programs that are overdosing, yet they don't have access to naloxone. School, just under 2%. Look at, nobody's died in prison. Let's send them all there. So this would just give you some idea. Common opiates, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Opiates are opiates, whether it's morphine, methadone, oxycodone, OxyContin, whatever. They're all based on morphine, and we measure them by MMEs, morphine measurement equivalencies, right? So does it matter if the pill is white, the same size, the same markings? One may have the strength of 5, or one may have the strength of 100 in the case of fentanyl. Carfentanil is an animal painkiller. Look at 1 grain of salt will kill a human. It's like made for elephants, right? We had a carfentanil death on the reservation. Maybe 3-4 years ago. Definitely happened though. Fentanyl, I don't know, what's that? Maybe 25 little tiny grains of salt. And that's enough heroin to kill somebody who's opiate naive like me. I don't use opiates unless I'm dying, but I will take them if I have to. So we're just talking about MME equivalency. So morphine is at 1, oxycodone's at 2.5, methadone, chronic methadone is about 5, heroin's about a 5, fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine. And carfentanil, woo! So we got some pretty heavy stuff on the street. Ooh, I don't know what happened there. Well, the slide is misbehaving, sorry. This number goes only to 2015, but we have an 884% increase in heroin overdose deaths in 5 years. If that was breast cancer, the governor would be marching with a bra on his head and red stilettos saying, "Save the Tatars." Nobody gives a shit about our kids. I'm just going to say it point blank, it's true. Nobody cares. 22 years I've been talking about this, and we're still talking about the same shit. For 22 years, come on, we gotta do something different. Tired of burying these kids. I don't know what's wrong with this slide. This slide showed opiates on board. So if you're somebody who has opiates in your system, the pupils would be pinpoints, very tiny. If you're in withdrawal, there'll be saucers, right? Big black discs in your eyes. Methamphetamine's the opposite. Pinpoint is in withdrawal, and saucers means amphetamines on board. So what's the key? The eyes have it. Let's look at your eyes. Look at my eyes in the mirror. Let me look at his eyes. Something's going on. It's the only way that you can tell, like, for sure something's going on. And I check my kid's eyes constantly. And she's 26. So this is Learn to Cope. It's a family support group in Massachusetts that's online. If you wanted to participate, you could. They're physical signs of using. These are objects that you may look at in your house. Cotton Q-tips. When I find a cotton Q-tip on the floor, I'm like, nobody uses opiates in my house. It's just me and my husband. I'm like, you have to pick those up. You trigger me. I get nervous. Small caps coming off the end of a needle, rolled up dollar bill, empty pen stick. They're using the pen to carry substances. Cigarette filter, I'm using that to filter whatever I'm using. Bottle caps, cookers. Belt with teeth marks, I'm using it as a tourniquet. Tin foil, black burn marks on the light switches, anywhere really. Pennies, what are we doing with pennies? It's been a minute since we talked about those. So we're crushing the covering off the pill. It's hot as hell for a reason. So they put it between 2 pennies and smash it, crack it open, and then they can get access to what is supposed to be time released. So this is just an idea of some of the paraphernalia. Wow, this is really not good. Must be on the internet. I'm sorry guys, I didn't think about it because we were late. So very high overdosing. Somebody who's overdosing is not going to respond to you. If they can respond, they don't need Narcan. If they're responding, they don't need Narcan. It's that simple. They could be drooling on their shoes bent over high as a kite. If they respond to you, they don't need Narcan. All it does is put them in precipitated withdrawal and makes them sick as a dog. The more you give them, the worse the withdrawal is. I've seen some ambulance drivers draw up, oh boy, this is 4 milligrams. I've seen 10 milligrams drawn up and administered. Like, that person's gonna wake up and be combative because they're so sick. They're not combative because they want to hurt you. They're combative because they were just out and now they're sick as a dog. Anybody had a baby with Pitocin? Oh, you'll never forget that in your life, will you?
I watched someone.
But that's what we do to people. That's what we do. That's how we get that opiate off their brain to get it to breathe and pull it off. All right, speech may be slurred. Their arms may be maybe droopy, but they will respond. If they respond, they don't need Narcan. Naloxone is a medication, and the only thing it does is take the opiate off the receptor and lets the brain breathe again. Nothing else. You could drink a gallon of this. If you have no opiates in your system, you'll get hydrated. Seriously. It's like the safest medication. They've been using it for 50 whatever years. If you were found on the sidewalk in front of the library and you were 97-year-old little old lady, they were going to give you naloxone in the cocktail that they give you to see if it's that. So it's super safe. Stays on the opioid receptor about 30 to 90 minutes. I don't really know what's happening with this. It's a little frustrating. Safety profile is it doesn't like to be hot or cold. It needs to be not kept in the car when it's 90 degrees outside, right? Oh, it's in my glove compartment, great. If you're using this, I'm going to show you how much liquid is in here. So this is a $150 Narcan kit that I just opened. Got 2 doses. Directions are on the front. Also, that sexy pharmaceutical.
Oh my word.
I don't think I've ever read it. Inside each package, it's really simple. You've got a piece of foil and yet another set of directions. Because it's so hard to spray Afrin up your nose. We need 10 times. This does not have a cover. It's ready to go. I recommend, and I'm going to show you the slides if they come on, but you're going to put your fingers on the outside edges so you can insert it all the way up the nose with your fingers on the outside of the nostril. Before I give this medication, I want to make sure that you need it, because it's a lot of money, right? I may not have it if I need it again if I use it just when I think somebody needs it. I want to make sure. So, if you don't answer me when I call your name, I don't like to touch people. I like to hug, but I don't want to be touching people in body parts. So I might get you with my foot. Fred! What's wrong with you, buddy? Why are you on my floor? No answer. What's next? Andy knows.